This video is a review and playtest of the recently published Dominion of the Spear and Bayonet rules. The rules appeared a few weeks ago and were written by Steve Parker, who's actually published a series of rules with this similar title, starting Dominion of. They are very easy to read, the mechanisms are easy to understand and to use, and they do enable you to fight a battle in a matter of a few minutes, which is great if you want to fight a series of battles as part of a campaign, or you have a small battle you want to resolve within a bigger campaign. So far I've read Dominion of the Spear, which is the ancient rules, and Dominion of the Spear and Bayonet, which are the colonial rules. Both of these come with scenario supplements, and it's this latter, the Dominion of the Spear and Bayonet, that is the subject of today's playtest. The rules use a simple battlefield which is actually made up of 3 sectors and 8 areas. The sectors are left, centre and right. And the back area is for the reserve units of both sides, and the 3 central areas on each side, or the sectors, are for the attackers and the defenders, and then again at the back, the defenders reserve. Armies are all made up of units totaling 12 points. Most units cost 2 points each, but if you add an elite unit and a discipline unit, they cost an additional 1 point. So, if you have an elite unit, elite infantry unit, spearman unit, for example, they will cost you 3 points, and if you add discipline to that as well, they will cost you 4 points. As a result, the armies used in these rules range from 3 to 6 units. Now, the units themselves come in various types. There's line infantry, which is, I suppose, what you consider to be the majority of units. Ambushers, which have a particular strength in that they can attack first in any combat, unless, of course, it's against skirmishers. Skirmishers, who are there to break up the attacks of line infantry and other units. Melee units, which rely mainly on spears, swords, bayonets as their weapon of choice, and artillery. The turn sequence is quite simple and split into 2 phases. The first phase is the attacker's phase. They choose a sector, the left, the centre or the right, in which to mount an attack. They throw a d6, the defender throws a d6, the scores are adjusted with any bonuses or penalties that may pertain, and the result is determined by the final dice score. Any units that are destroyed, either attacker or defender, are removed from the battlefield and replaced by a unit from the reserve, should there be one still there. It's then the defender's chance to see what happens when they institute combat against the attacker. Again, they choose a sector, left, centre or right. The dice are thrown, and any destroyed units on either side are replaced from the reserve, again, if there's any units left in the reserve area. When both those 2 combat phases have been finished, the turn is at an end. However, if at that point one side is reduced to purely 1 unit and the other side still has 2 units, then the side with 1 unit has lost the battle and the whole thing ends. For my playtest, I chose to pit a group of Mahdists against an Egyptian army. The Mahdists had a skirmisher unit of Baggara cavalry, an elite unit of spearmen, the Hadendower, an elite line infantry regiment, the Jihadiyya, an ambusher unit, which is made up with Ansar spearmen, and a skirmisher unit, which is made up with Ansar spearmen with bows, firearms, you name it. They were opposed by an Egyptian unit that comprised a unit of dragoon cavalry, a unit of line infantry, the Sudanese, who can always be relied on, two other line infantry units who were conscripts, a unit of spearmen who were Sudanese native levies or auxiliaries, and some artillery. Now, in the actual pictures, you're going to see these are not old cannon, but for the sake of the playtest, I assumed that they were. Here you see the Mahdists, and here the Egyptians. And all these figures were drawn from my collection of Belle Epoque figures. Here you see the starting positions for the battle. You'll notice that my grid is slightly different in that I've made my grid areas square, but that's only because I wanted to be able to fit my units in without any problems. And the positions of the starting positions of the units were as follows. The Mahdists had their Baggara cavalry, their Mahdist skirmishers and their ambushers in their front line, with their two elite units behind them, whereas the Egyptians had their dragoons on the left, one of their line infantry units in the middle, and their spear-armed levies on the right, and with one of their line infantry units, their Sudanese infantry and the artillery in the reserve area. Right. The Mahdists attacked first. Well, they were the attackers, so it would be. And they chose to attack the cavalry with their Baggara cavalry. As you can see from the dice scores, neither side was able to win this combat, and things stayed as they were. No units were lost. The defender then chose to attack in the centre sector, and they sent forward their first line infantry against the Ansar that were facing them, and again, the combat was indecisive. The second turn saw the Baggaras again attack the dragoons, and again neither side prevailed. On this occasion, however, the Egyptians chose to attack on the right and sent their spearmen forward against the Ansar, who were opposing them. And again, as you can see from the dice scores, neither side was able to prevail. The third turn, again, the Baggaras attacked the cavalry, the dragoon cavalry of the Egyptians, but this time they came off worse. They were destroyed, and the elite Jihadiyya was moved forward to replace them. It was then the defenders' turn to initiate combat, and again they chose the right-hand side. Those two units faced off against each other again, and this time the Sudanese auxiliaries were beaten, and they were replaced by the Sudanese line infantry. At this point, both sides have lost one unit, so things are fairly even. Turn 4 saw the Jihadiyya attack the dragoons and come off worse. Even though they were an elite unit, they came off worse. They were defeated, destroyed, and replaced by the Hadendower. This time the Egyptians decided to attack in the centre. Their first line infantry attacked the Ansar facing them. Both sides scored the maximum score. Both sides destroyed their opponents. And this left the situation where the second Egyptian line infantry had to move forward and occupy the vacant space. In turn 5, the Hadendower attacked the dragoons and beat them soundly. with the result that the Egyptian artillery had to occupy a position in the front line facing the Hadendowa. However, when it came to the defenders' chance to fight, because there was no one opposite them, the 2nd Egyptian line infantry was able to enfilade or outflank the Hadendowa, who weren't able to throw a dice in return, and the Hadendowa were destroyed. As a result, the Mahdist forces were down to 1 unit, the Egyptians retained 3, and the battle had gone the Egyptians' way. Not the way I would have predicted it from the outset, I must admit. That is the end of my review and playtest of the Dominion of the Spear and Bayonet rules. I hope I've explained the basics of them so that you could certainly think about picking up a set of these rules and trying a game with them. They are becoming increasingly popular, and I can understand why. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, please consider joining or subscribing to this channel. In the meantime, enjoy your wargaming, have a good day, and goodbye.